Hello everyone, welcome to the channel of MeteoMark Weather. It's great to have you here. We have a tremendous amount to talk about here. We have Tropical Storm Milton that has formed. This is going to become a major hurricane, and unfortunately, it has its eyes on Florida, especially central and southern Florida here as we head through midweek. Tremendous amounts of rain well out ahead of it. We're going to get into all the details, all your weather in the tropics. Let's get into it. And looking at the infrared three-dimensional view of Tropical Storm Milton, you can see there's South Texas up here, and there is our big central area of extreme thunderstorms forming right around the center of circulation here. You can see this has got a lot going for it. It's a very symmetrical system already, and it's only going to intensify and grow in size as it heads towards the state of Florida, unfortunately. So starting off here with our European model, and then we'll progress over towards our other model, GFS, and see if we got the hurricane model in yet. Look at this. As we continue in time here, we're going to be looking at Milton strengthening as it moves towards the northeast, really gaining a much stronger inner core. European model taking it at just on the south of guidance initially. That's going to clip parts of the northern Yucatan Peninsula here, Cancun. One thing to note is tropical moisture is going to be spinning well out ahead of this system. This as we head through October 8th here. So as we head through Tuesday, this thing likely becoming a major hurricane by Tuesday and Wednesday. Could it become a Category 4? It's quite possible. Here's the European model blasting this thing and really intensifying it as we head towards October 9th. This is 5 a.m. So we're literally lining this thing up somewhere between Tampa and Cape Coral here. And it is being steered by, we have this trough just to the north here. We have this blocking high to the north, so that's why this storm can't come up this direction. So Louisiana, Texas, on towards the panhandle of Florida is safe from this. Unfortunately, we're going to add this saturated ground here from all this heavy rain we've had this week, and then we're going to continue to push this storm towards the Tampa area. At least on this model run, we're pushing a major hurricane into Tampa Bay. Now, it must be noted that this storm is not a single point. It's going to have a very large circulation. So unfortunately, there's going to be impacts well north and south of the center of circulation. And this is going to bring storm surge, particularly south as the winds come in, that circulation. So from Tampa Bay on southward, at least on this model run, very concerned about high surge content here. And then it's going to cross over into Orlando here the 10th. So we're looking at landfall on the 9th. It's on the evening of the 9th here, Wednesday, and then it's kind of exiting the Florida coastline here by Thursday at 2 p.m. So it does start to put the pedal to the metal here and accelerate off to the east-northeast, which is great news. Thankfully, it will not be making a beeline up the U.S. East Coast because of this big blocking high here to the north. All right, so our hurricane model here, HWRF, and I'll show you the GFS momentarily here. You can see as we just progress towards the east-northeast here, this system's going to be intensifying rapidly. In fact, our HWRF has this at 966 millibars here by October 7th at 2 p.m., so Tuesday or Monday afternoon. So this thing really intensifying it quite rapidly. We're going to have to keep an eye on those trends. Keeping it just north of the Yucatan, you will get these showers and thunder showers. Look at this. You can actually see some feeder bands well to the east here. Here's the Cayman Islands. Here's Jamaica. So there could be some spiraling feeder bands well out ahead on the southeast side of the system. 952 millibars here by October 8th in the morning. Now, watch what our hurricane model does with this with respect to guidance. It's literally right down the center of guidance. One thing I'm very concerned about here as well, 930 millibars. This is October 9th at 2 p.m., so this is Wednesday afternoon. This does not give you a lot of time to prepare here in Central and South Florida. And here's our hurricane model with respect to Tampa. This would be devastating. This is 942 millibar low coming right into Tampa Bay here. So areas around the core, look how intense and large the core is. And you would get damage well south here into these feeder bands. And then, of course, there's flooding rains to the north and wind as well. So this would be a very large circulation. You can see we'd have feeder bands all the way down into Miami here. So If you're worried about South Florida, also flooding concerns, you know, the ground's already going to become saturated. If we put this into motion, you can see those bands just continuing to funnel towards the northeast here. And this thing getting into Orlando by 5 a.m. on Thursday morning here, the 10th. So that is a big concern as well. And then exiting off the coast, the hurricane model's wanting to wobble this a little bit to the north, but I think for the most part, you only get some heavy rain and wind here in the Carolinas. Before we continue with more weather coverage here and model analysis, don't forget, if you made it this far in the video and you like it, smash that like button, everyone. It really does help. Question or comment down below. I love to read your questions or comments. Keeps our weather community active. And don't forget, if you haven't subscribed yet, what are you waiting for? Hit that subscribe bell notification button so you're alerted with all my future weather video updates. Let's continue. So let's take a look at our GFS model here with respect to our other two models, the European model and the HWRF hurricane model. So as we just progress this, here is the GFS. This is by October 7th. We're getting into Monday morning here. This thing becoming tightly wound here. And the GFS is exploding this just like the hurricane model. And look at this. As we head towards the 9th at 2 a.m., here it is. This is Wednesday morning. All the models are honing in towards later Wednesday landfall point here. And unfortunately, they have wobbled further to the north towards Tampa. So all the models are now bringing this into Tampa Bay. This is a development that I've been really concerned about for a long time. I know Tampa has been dodging the bullets on these, especially getting into the core of these hurricanes. But these kind of tracks would bring a devastating surge and tremendous wind and damage into the Tampa Bay area. And as we continue out here in time, this is 11 a.m. on the 9th. So if we just back this up, here it is, right into Tampa Bay. GFS is a little bit, look at that, there it is, 8 a.m. on October 9th. So the GFS is actually faster with this, and then brings it inland very quickly and then off the coast by 5 a.m. Thursday morning. So there you have it. GFS a little bit faster here with respect to our storm, but the same idea, Tampa Bay, unfortunately. All right, so let's take a look at the upper levels of the atmosphere, what's going to be steering this system. And you can see where the trough is very visibly here. It's further to the north. That allows our system to really strengthen here in a very tropical atmosphere. But then it's going to start to be drawn a little bit north by this trough. So this trough's actually going to help, you know, steer it in the direction of west central Florida, unfortunately, here. And as you can see, this run of the GFS model bringing it up a little bit to the north of Tampa. So that's a trend we'll have to keep an eye on here. It's all going to be the timing of this trough. So taking a look at the European run here, you can see the energy. European actually pushes this a little bit closer here to the northern Yucatan Peninsula, so definitely some outer feeder bands getting in. But you can see the trough really starts to capture the system across the northeast Gulf by this point, pushing it in the direction of west central Florida. And there it is, heading right into Tampa Bay right around Thursday, early Thursday, October 10th here, and then moving inland. So that's going to be, you know, really something we're going to have to keep a very close watch on here. But the big story is going to be this steering current, if we can get that out of the way, just to the north here. That's going to be digging, and that's going to help pull it up a little bit further to the northeast into the northeastern Gulf. All right, so zooming in here, thanks to Tropical Tidbits for our mid-layer dry air analysis. It looks like what's happened with the models here, it keeps that drier air well to the north, so that trough hanging back longer, which is going to promote that tropical environment we need here on the GFS model for extensive strengthening here of Milton. Look at this by, let's see, Tuesday morning here, 956 millibars here on the GFS, 951. This is going to be devastating. That's all I have to say. In addition to the heavy rain, this is going to be a major hurricane making landfall somewhere near Tampa Bay. This is going to be devastating. And you see you don't have the dry air flooding into the system just yet. So this is going to continue across the Florida peninsula. It may maintain its hurricane status. The only good news is behind it, you do start to see the drier air wrapping in around October 10th into the 11th as it really starts to weaken the system and bog it down here, which is some great news. But look at this. We do have another tropical wave here come next weekend moving into the Caribbean, and that is the big concern. This actually might try to develop into something here. Both the European and the GFS models showing something really trying to make, something happen here. The GFS more so than the European model, but there it is. We could be talking about another storm here come the middle to latter part of the month, right around that third week of October. As we take a look at the European model here, as we continue through the rest of your Sunday into Monday, there it is as well. European model in agreement with keeping that trough further to the north with the dry air, well to the north and to the west. It promotes that tropical, very moist environment that's needed with lower wind shear to get this thing cranking. Here's the European model on Wednesday morning, 972 millibars. So this thing even cranking it down to as low, there it is, 964 if we go to right around mid-morning on Wednesday morning. And then the European model, this is interesting on the European model. It does start to entrain dry air into South Florida. So that would be our best case scenario here as far as backing off a bit, but it still puts a major hurricane coming barreling into Tampa Bay. So, the core still maintains intact here, but this could help erode the storm a little bit. So this is something we're going to have to keep an eye on. Here it is, 978 millibars. The European still wanting to slow it down here. As you can see, this is, still slowing it down onto Thursday morning, barely moving from the Tampa Bay area, and then it starts to kick it to the east, thankfully, as that trough starts to kick it to the east here. So hopefully we can get this thing moving and not get, rainfall in the feet here across Florida. But here it is. I wanted to show you, there's that tropical wave coming into the western and southwestern part of the Caribbean. That is going to be our next system to watch. All right, so our wind shear analysis here. As you can see, the wind shear pretty much stays away from the system. It's literally almost just to the north. So if this thing were to wobble a little bit to the north, it would get sheared apart. But look at that. It stays on the southern end of that until, we get towards the coastline. Then it starts getting entrained into it, and that's where it'll start to weaken pretty rapidly here. But that's our European solution. As we flip over to the GFS here, you can see GFS keeps that highest wind shear well to the north here. So this keeps a very hospitable environment up to landfall until it gets into Florida. Then the wind shear really starts to entrain, especially on the north and west side of the system, where it starts to probably transition into something extratropical. And here we go with sea surface temperatures, still extremely warm here across the Gulf. This thing has a very large fetch, but I want to make note of something here. Off the southeast coast, and then look it through the Caribbean into the western part of the MDR. The water temperatures are on fire here, so that's why I'm very concerned about continued named storms and development through October into November. So zooming into Florida here, this is our biggest concern on the European model. There it is, out ahead of the storm. This is through Tuesday. Look at those rainfall totals. This is not good out ahead of a main hurricane, and then we just add additional insult to injury here. Thankfully, the models have backed off on those 20-some inches, but still, this is a lot of rain. We're looking at, solid 4 to 8 with locally higher. I would not be surprised if some areas eclipse 10 inches here this week. And as we get into the GFS run here is, Sarasota area. That's where I think, and we get on the northwest side of the system up towards Jacksonville once it heads inland. But look at this. Yeah, we could be looking at tremendous amounts of rainfall on the order of a foot in some locations. This is very concerning. And Western Caribbean here, Central America, look at this. Yeah, you do get a little bit of a break through midweek here. Jamaica, the Cayman Islands, you do start to pick up more showers towards next weekend there with another tropical wave. Yeah, we could be looking outwards of close to 70, maybe 80, 90 millimeters here from the Cayman Islands to Jamaica, get you up towards about 2 inches, 3 inches on average here. And then heading through Central America, the bigger tropical wave starts to develop around the middle of the month here. That's where most of this falls on October 14th and 15th. We will be seeing on the order of 125 to 150 millimeters in many locations, getting you up towards 5 to as much as 7 inches. And here across the northern Yucatan and coastal Mexico here, you continued heavy rains here with Milton as it develops up towards 80 to 100 millimeters, locally higher, getting up towards 2.5 to 4 inches. And heading to the Eastern Caribbean through Bahamas here, yeah, we have a tropical wave come midweek moving through the Lesser Antilles, Trinidad, Tobago. You could get up to 80 millimeters of rainfall, right around 2.5, 3 inches over towards Jamaica as we head towards the middle of the month. But yeah, you we'll pick up some rainfall here through the Virgin Islands, Puerto Rico, Dominican Republic here, anywhere from about 30 to 50 millimeters on average here. Nothing more than, say, a half to 3/4 of an inch. Across the northern Bahamas, though, that's where you're going to really pick up 100 to 150 millimeters on the southern edge of Hurricane Milton. And looking at the rest of the tropics here, we are looking at Major Hurricane Kirk here is going to continue to put the pedal to the metal out here and accelerate, thankfully, away. It will brush parts of the northern Azores here with some wind and waves, maybe some shower activity, but thankfully most of the worst of it stays to the north. It is greatly going to impact parts of Spain, Portugal, France, and maybe the southern portion of the British Isles as we get into the October 8th, 9th, and 10th here. Look at this. This thing really blasting to the northeast, causing some major problems. And look at this, we got another area of low pressure behind it moving in. So stormy times for Europe. Now, as we just back it up here, we got a few other areas of development out here. Cape Verde season still cranking out here. We have Hurricane Leslie, which is forecast to slowly weaken over the next several days. It will become a remnant low and get caught up in the westerlies through the middle part of the month. But you can see, look what's going to be happening here in the Caribbean. Let me just back this up for you in Jamaica, the Cayman Islands. As we head through the 10th, 11th here, it's mostly dry, with the exception for some of those feeder bands on the south side of Hurricane Milton. You can see as we head through the 8th, 9th, and 10th, you might actually get some moisture here. Cayman Islands, Jamaica, these areas. So watch out. We got a big tropical wave moving through the Lesser Antilles here. Watch out for that. And as we continue in time here, you can see what's going to be happening. We're going to have more homegrown type tropical waves to contend with here. But here it is, October 11th. We're just lining up the heavy rain, the tropical waves. We have a few tropical waves to watch here. So we'll keep an eye on them for you here. Thankfully, so far, none of them looks like it's going to develop until about the 12th into the 13th. I'm becoming a little increasingly concerned about two areas, one around Trinidad, Tobago, and there's another area into the southwestern part of the Caribbean, as has been the thing so far this season. That's where most of the tropical activity has developed. As we head towards the middle of the month, you can see what's happening here. There's just a surge in tropical waves right through this area, and a big one really starts to look like it's trying to take some sort of shape here in the northwestern Caribbean. So as we take a look at the rest of the tropics here, what is going on here on the GFS? Well, other than Milton, for the most part, we'll see some scattered showers and thunder showers around Jamaica, the Cayman Islands, as we head through next week. And then we get a bigger tropical wave. This is what I was talking about here on the European model. So this takes us to right around the 13th, 14th time range. I'm getting increasingly concerned here. The Western Caribbean, please watch out. I am going to keep an eye on this because this has been a thing so far this season in propagating these strong tropical waves. At least on this model, the GFS is actually trying to develop something, which is very concerning. Look at this. Right around Cancun. And as we continue, take it with a grain of salt, though. It is 300 hours out, but look at that. It takes it right up towards Florida and the Eastern Gulf. In our HRRR future radar, it is a beautiful weekend here across much of the East. As we head throughout the rest of your Saturday into Sunday, you're only going to have to contend with this up here into southeast Canada. There's some showers and some stronger thunderstorms here. Now, some of these start to develop a little further to the south here. This is 5 p.m. on Sunday evening. So watch out. Cleveland, Akron, up to Erie, Buffalo. This line might, let me just back this up. Look how quickly that develops. So Cleveland, you might get clipped with this around Sunday evening, 5, 6 p.m. That really starts to fill in. This is a strengthening cold front as it heads east. Will we see the chance of some stronger, maybe some warnings? Well, I'm not expecting widespread, but there could be some severe weather problems here as we head through. Here it is, 9 p.m. Sunday evening, and there it is, right around 11 p.m. moving through the I-81 corridor. This stretches to the east as we head towards 1 a.m. on Monday morning, and that's going to propagate towards New England. So maybe some areas getting some beneficial rains, enough to wet the soil down at least here. And then we get a little bit of a lake effect response behind it. Now, Gulf of Mexico. This is the big concern in the short term. Ahead of Milton, there's going to be tremendous tropical moisture just propagating towards Florida here. Reminds you kind of Helene, when we had all that moisture well out ahead of to the north that saturated the ground already, and that's what got us into major problems. So as we continued through the day on Sunday, look at Florida here. We're just getting inundated here with additional activity. And as we head towards 2 p.m. on Monday afternoon, look at this. This is the last frame. Things are really not looking good here across the Gulf. All right, so picking up where our HRRR feature radar left off as we continue in time, all eyes, we don't really have too much to talk about. There's a little weak disturbances up here into parts of the Northeast that we'll have to contend with from time to time, maybe some lake effect responses, but all eyes are going to be on the Eastern Gulf here. So high pressure well to the north, that's going to block this system and deflect it out to sea. You might get some brushed here into parts of the Carolinas. But as we continue in time, there it is. It heads out to sea. Bermuda might get clipped with this. And then, it's just a lot of high pressure building into the east here until we get to about the middle part of the month. Let me just back this up. This might be a scenario where we have, this almost looks like an early Alberta Clipper just diving across the Great Lakes here on the 13th. So as we head into the 13th, into the 14th, look what it does. It blasts up an area of low pressure right around Nova Scotia, New Brunswick, and this kind of retrogrades back to the west here. So we might be getting clipped with quite a storm here in eastern parts of New England and southeast Canada. All right, so as we take a look at rainfall totals here on the European model first, yeah, this is looking very devastating for parts of Florida. The only good news is it's not going to stall. The bad news is well out ahead of the area of low pressure, there's going to be continued saturation here with tremendous amounts of rain. So the European model showing quite a bit of rain here. And as you can see across parts of the Ohio Valley into the Northeast, this is where we could see, with our Sunday evening system. Some areas might actually get up to a half to 3/4 of an inch, closer to an inch or two. And then, of course, that low pressure backing up towards the middle of the month. This actually takes us out to October 15th. So for our Canadian weather here, we're dealing with a big area of low pressure blasting out of Manitoba into parts of Ontario. That is going to continue eastward as we head into Monday into Tuesday. You see it's dragging a cold front here across much of eastern Quebec. Lots of wind and some heavy rain, high pressure building in behind it. And we're watching British Columbia for those continued storm systems lining up. And we're going to see here the biggest inclement weather is going to be across southeast Canada. We're just going to hang up an upper level low that kind of gets cut off for a while. It gets blocked up here. That will kind of fade away October 10th and 11th, blast up into the Canadian Maritimes. And then we develop, the tail of both coasts here. Lots of activity as this system moves ashore here in British Columbia. And then we're actually going to be looking towards the southeast Canadian coastline here, the Canadian Maritimes, as we continue out here in time. And then right in the middle of Canada is a big area of high pressure. Now watch what happens here. This is what I mentioned here for the United States medium range outlook here. We're going to watch for a system blowing up come the middle of the month into southeast Canada. Canadian rainfall totals here. Much of it's going to be on the west coast and southeast Canada, eastern parts of Quebec, New Brunswick, Prince Edward Island, Nova Scotia, Newfoundland here. These areas, as we head through the middle of the month, could see easily 90 to as much as 125 millimeters. We're getting up towards 3 to as much as 6 inches of rain. And on the west coast here, British Columbia, those mountainous areas and coastal areas could see 150 to 200 millimeters. That's getting up towards close to anywhere from about 6 to as much as 8, some areas as much as 10 inches. All right, so taking a look at the Western Pacific here, what is going on? Thankfully, there's not a whole lot going on out here in the Western Pacific. One thing can be said is the Atlantic heats up, the Western Pacific becomes quieter. We just have a lot of synoptic weather, but look how it cleans out here and clears out from Japan, South Korea, all the way down into Southeast China and Vietnam here. Even the Philippines looking a little better as we head towards the 10th, 11th, 12th, and then we start to get into some more monsoon-type rains again. I don't really see any chances of typhoons. That is the great news. And here in the Eastern Pacific, I just wanted to make mention, we do have an area that could stand a chance to develop here off the western Mexican coast. The good news is it looks like it'll remain mostly a fish storm as we head through October 10th and 11th right off of Baja California coastline there. And heading into rainfall totals here across the western Pacific. Yeah, the Philippines getting a little break over the next week until the center of the month where we start to get increased activity, anywhere from about 80 to 100 millimeters on average here, especially in the southern Philippines as well. Heading up towards about 2.5 to 4 inches, and then parts of southern Vietnam, a lot of areas of China, and look at this, Korea drying out as well. But unfortunately, more rain for Japan here. This is synoptic style rain up towards 100 millimeters. Many locations getting up towards 3 to 4 inches. And before we continue with more weather, check out these awesome, amazing maps that you won't find anywhere else.
I am proud to announce that I am now an affiliate with Trilogy Maps. TrilogyMaps.com, bringing you the most digital, customizable maps found nowhere else on the internet. These maps are simply stunning. It's an advanced layering system that makes these maps great for making forecast maps with ease or any other maps that you would like to display important information on. The resolution on these maps is simply amazing. From the detail of everything here in the States, and you can also create stunning, digital, professional layered maps from also across the entire world. And don't forget, in checkout, the discount code option, use my code, MeteoMark, hit apply, and you will get 20% off your order. So if you want the most professional, customizable, and affordable weather maps found nowhere else on the internet, look no further than TrilogyMaps.com. Link in the description down below along with your discount code.
And here we go with temperatures as we continue through Sunday here. Look at this. The heat is on. Look at parts of the Ohio Valley into the mid-80s here from Pittsburgh, but staying in the 70s around the eastern Great Lakes. We got some cool air coming. Watch what happens with this cool air. So we continue to stay hot here along the Gulf Coast, upper 80s, lower 90s, but look at this here Monday. Some areas might not get out of the upper 50s. Right around 60 degrees as that cooler air pivots, and that's going to be with us most of the week. Here's Tuesday, October 8th. Look at this. There's our timestamp. And this is just going to be cool. Very fall-like across the lakes in the Northeast. We do start to see evidence it's going to start warming back up, but look at that. That's going to help increase the fall foliage here as we head into Thursday, October 10th. Those colder nights down into the upper 30s, lower 40s, and look at this, upper 50s here into parts of northern New England. We're staying here with our clouds and precipitation in Florida. We're cooling it down into the low 80s. But look at it, we head into Friday, October 11th here. Still holding on to some 60s up here into parts of the Northeast and Great Lakes. Extended forecast from our hometown viewers, Binghamton, Scranton, Upper Susquehanna, River Valley of New York and Pennsylvania. As we head through Sunday, another nice day, heading up towards around the lower 70s. Cold start, though, upper 30s, some good sleeping weather as we head into Sunday night and early Monday morning. Showers and thunderstorms rolling through up towards about 1/4 to 1/2 an inch possible. But look at by Monday there. It's out of the way, but it will be blustery. Wind gusts as high as 20 to 30 miles per hour out of the northwest. Highs barely reaching 60. And then as we continue through the week here, you can see, look at those high temperatures come the middle of the week, cooling down into the mid to upper 50s. Very fall-like. As always, thank you for joining me for this edition of MeteoMark's Weather. Also, don't forget to join me on Facebook at MeteoMark, also Weather Northeastern, also Twitter at Weather Eastern. Don't forget it's MeteoMark.com, and don't forget, if you want to send me a coffee, there is a link, super thanks. You can smash that super thanks button or my PayPal link in the description down below. You can buy me a cup of coffee. Thanks everyone. Share that video, subscribe if you haven't, smash that like button.